All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I have 1,000 tabs open, trying to organize myself a little bit here. I was so excited to be kicking off the Monday message today. We had a really great week last week of numbers, and we have a really exciting week this week here. Actually, at the office, a lot of the numbers we've been tracking is, where we're at currently this month compared to last year at this point. And we're already way exceeding, a lot of the metrics that we'd be needing to hit to meet that. So we're super excited. We have a really, really great call today. Omar Smith himself, the man, the myth, the legend, is going to be taking over here for Steven. He's got some really great content about storytelling. So I'm going to make my part really quick because I know you don't want to listen to me. So I'm going to go ahead and share our numbers from last week. And let me see if I can get these pulled up. And last week alone, let me see. Trying to share my screen. Here we go. Bear with me. Sorry. Decided to go away as I tried to pull it up. Here we go. All right, let's fix this. So last week alone, with all people submitting over 1,000, last week again, I know there's a lot more numbers below this, but we can only start off at 1,000, or this page would take forever. But starting at 1,000, we had Rachel, Matthew, Kelsey, Devon and Nikki. We had Gwen, Polo, Dave O'Brien, Camille, Brianna, Terry, Eric, Jude, Rob, and Mallory. And then now starting at 2,000 last week, Elizabeth, Ricky, Nanette, Brandon, Melissa, Michael, Jeff. Oh, sorry, that's 3,000. So Jeff starts with 3,000 last week. Then we go to David, the other David. Then we have Mimi Romero, Andre, Derek, Vanessa Love here in the Bay Shop directly. We're so proud of her. She's been crushing it here. Then leading into 4,000, Mark Hutch himself, Haley, Jeremico, now into 5,000. Rogers and Kim last week, $5,231 over 5 apps. Now getting into 6,000, we have Tom with $6,068.76 over 5 apps. Jeanette with $6,376.08 over 6 apps last week. Marissa with $6,451.20 over 4 apps. And then topping this leaderboard, Sydney with $6,899.52 over 13 applications. That's some work right there. Now we'll go to the top 5. And so we have at number 5, Christina with 7,200 even with 1 application. We have David with $8,673.56 over 6 apps. And Boss Man himself with $8,967.24 over 6 apps, even while traveling, going across the country. Don't know how he does it, but he does it. Then we have Mercedes here with 15,000 even over 5 apps. Way to go. And then just by $106 exactly, Kira, $15,106 even over 1 app last week to lead the top 5 submits. So way to go, guys. Top 5 paychecks, favorite leaderboard here. Number 5, David had $5,694.79 deposited into his account. We had Michael with $7,672.55. We have Mark with $9,038.29. And Nick Greco with $11,697.22. And if you're wondering if this next one's a typo, I thought so, so I had to double check, but it's not. Adam Burge himself, $54,653.72. So I'll be on my way to your house because I know you have it, and I'll be expecting some nice gifts in return. So way to go, Adam. That is awesome. Leaderboard last week, Bay Shop here with 6 completed fast tracks and 1 contract. And everyone else tied also. Aaron, Cleo, Adam, and Derek all with 1 contract as well. And PLE, we forgot to add ours in there, but we did have 5 PLE enrollments last week alone. And again, if you guys are getting PLE enrollments, please let us know. Whenever you submit your weekly numbers through Discord, just include that in the comments because we don't get any of that data. So if you're getting people enrolled, I'm sorry, but we have no idea. So please let us know so we can actually, show those numbers. So, now our next leaderboard is Steven's Travel. So today he is actually going to be in Detroit, Michigan. And then tomorrow he's actually going to be in San Diego, seeing actually some of our new directs here on the Bay Shop, which is super, super exciting. Then going into next week, April 21st, he'll be in Salt Lake City. Then the 22nd, he'll be back in California, there in Oakland, to see Mimi, and then also to see some of our new directs here as well, Pam. And then, going into May, he'll be back at Salt Lake City. And then we'll see in Orlando, Florida on May 6th. And then May 28th through 30, that's that special event in California that Steven was mentioning a couple Monday messages ago, which the details are still coming out about that, but that's where he'll be. And then the next big upcoming event is Family Reunion, July 17th through 20. And that's where Steven will be, of course, Burlington, as all of you should be as well, for the next upcoming event. And we're actually working on fine tuning our date for our next boot camp here as well. So we'll have those details out very shortly. And then we have our year-to-date top producers so far. We have Kath at number 5, Seth and Adina at number 4, Mike Garrett number 3, Jermico at number 2, and David at number 1, which I know a lot of these numbers are about to change quite significantly because a lot of that data from last week is now going to flow over into this week. So a lot of this will look way different next week. And then our last and really, really exciting slide here is our new policy submitters. So these are all brand new agents submitting their first policies with us here last month. So super, super excited. So we have Dryan Bracy, Dakota Washington, Sharon Johnson-Jones here at our Bay Shop. So proud of her. Victoria Hunt also here at our Bay Shop. Kevin Loomis, Vinny Patterson, John Rivers, Kelsey Glona also here. Bay Shop, Taran Wilson. Brooke Cisco, direct to Brandy, super proud of her. Ricky Tyler, Hope Gardner, Jesse Lemon, also Bay Shop, Devonta Rice, and Mackenzie Weller, all last month again, submitting their first policies. So, so proud of you guys. It's so, so exciting to hear. Well, that's all the numbers I have. So again, I try to keep my portion pretty short, but now I'm going to bring on the man, the myth, the legend himself, Omar Smith, and I'm going to let him just have free reign here. So Omar, are you on with us?
I am. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
I can do both.
Okay,
Awesome.
good
All
deal.
right, we'll take it away.
Excuse me. Appreciate you, Shan. Thank you, man. And if you don't mind, just reach out to Adam Burge and find his Cash App so we can all send our requests. $50,000 is crazy for a week. That's nuts. So proud of the team. I'm really looking forward to covering this topic today. I've been wanting to do it for quite some time. I'm working on working it into Agent Academy, so just bear with us on that. So as Steven is out there serving the team on the front lines, I'm hoping to do a few more of these things. And speaking of which, you guys saw the travel schedule. He's out there. He's beating the streets for you guys. So let's make sure we're all doing our part and making sure that we're bringing people to put in front of him, right? Take all that stress off of you. You don't have to worry about screwing it up. Just talk to someone you know that you think would be good at this. If they're sharp people, send them to Steven, right? If you don't have anybody in that town, you can start recruiting. We can talk about, one-on-one how to target people in those areas that Steven goes to frequently. Because if you get them there, he will send them back to you excited, right? Then you get them tapped into us here and we'll get them up and going. So he's out there for you guys to build your team. So let's just make sure we're all doing our part, to put the sharp people in front of them. But again, I've been looking forward to this. And so I want to continue this series. It's about storytelling, right? The art of storytelling, if you will. And so in the next couple of weeks, as Steven is gone, I'm hoping to kind of plug some of this because there's no way to cover everything in one call. And plus, I don't want y'all to be here forever. We got stuff we got to do. We got families we got to serve and help. But we're going to talk about a couple things. So why stories are important, why incorporating them into your sales conversation is going to have a huge impact in helping you move people, right? What that's going to look like. And then finally, we're going to talk about the actual steps, right? How do I structure my story to be effective? And again, to move the needle, move my clients to action, because that's what we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to do in the sales conversation is serve these clients and move them to action today. So telling stories is going to help you with that. I feel like I am uniquely qualified to talk about this, not only from my own personal experience from being around Steven and soaking up his training and doing it myself, right? I find that the more consistent I am when implementing the sales principles that he teaches in our course. If you don't know what I'm talking about, shame on you or your upline. Reach out to us. We'll get you that. The closer that I am to implementing those sales principles, the more successful I am. The further I get removed from those things, the less successful I am. Right. So not only do I have that direct personal experience and that commissions to prove it, um, I also, you guys saw the numbers last year, right? Number one in direct with recruiting, over 200 direct with recruits, right? The team put in a lot of work, to get those people in the door. We'll be there again, at the end of this year. Um, Somebody, once you get the recruits in the door, has to work with them. That somebody is me. I have listened to, I don't know this for a fact, but I do know this for a fact. Nobody in the alliance has listened to more phone calls than I have, especially not over the last 12 months. But using the system that we use, like we use that to coach and give feedback. We don't believe in general feedback around here. We specialize in specificity around here. So if I can't hear what you're saying, I can't give you the actual coaching you need to be successful and to make the changes we need to make. So I have spent a billion hours listening to a billion hours of phone calls. So I know where the agents are doing well, and I have my finger on the pulse of where they are struggling. And it's super informational for me because that lets me know where we either miss something in our training or where we need to spend more time emphasizing on the training. And stories is something that came up a lot. So at this point, I'm very good at helping agents understand and ask the right questions to get the story, right? Everybody's pretty good at that. They've been through Agent Academy, they kind of understand how to do that. But the back half of that is okay, once they tell me their story, now what? How do I tell my opposite story, right? Refer to the training. We got to have an opposite story to have that emotional pull that we need to create urgency, right? So that's the part where it's more difficult for agents. One, because you actually have to have one, right? You have to have a negative and a positive story. Unfortunately, most of the clients that we talk to, they have negative stories, so we need to have those positive ones. When I get into the structure of the story later, I'm going to use my own personal one that I use, and you guys can use it. You can borrow it under one condition. You got to do it right, right? Because it's a personal story for me. It's about my grandfather. I still miss him dearly. I wouldn't be the man I was today if it wasn't for him. So I don't mind you guys using it, but you got to do it the right way. Right. So that's why I wanted to spend some time focusing on helping people not only develop their stories, but understand how to explain it, to their client in a way that's relevant and meaningful. Right? Y'all with me? Okay. So moving on down the line. So how all of us have heard this, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right? We've all heard that. I slowed down so y'all can say it with me. So how do I demonstrate care in a sales environment? I will say face to face is a little easier. There's body language and all that we can interpret from each other. But if you're on a remote call, a lot tougher, right? So how do I demonstrate care to my client? Well, I demonstrate care by listening to them, making them feel heard, right? Asking the right questions and going deep. When you find that why, like going deep on that, right? Understanding not only who died, but I mean, were they sick? Was it an accident? What did you guys have to do to come up with the money? How'd that make you feel to have to go beg your family members for money or put the funeral on a credit card? Just a few examples. Like you got to dig deep on that, right? Because we got to stir up that emotion. And once we do that, now we can tell our story, bring them back up, give them some hope, right? Then we can move forward. So you have to demonstrate that level of care. So stories are important for a bunch of reasons, but for one, it'll show you where you are with your client when it comes to connecting with them, right? So in our training, we separated up the sales conversation into four phases: the connection phase, situation phase, or story phase, um, presentation, and the solution phase. So I spend most of my time talking about the connection phase and the situation slash story phase. Because if you don't have that, you're dead in the water, right? It doesn't matter how good you are with insurance toolkits. It doesn't matter how fast your quote fingers are, right? If you haven't connected with the client. So it shows you how well you've connected. Because most clients, they're not going to just tell you what's going on, right? They'll tell you some version of, I want to make sure my family's okay. I want to make sure should something happen to me that, everybody's set up, nobody has to be put out. But that's not enough. That's not enough. I mean, I appreciate that if they tell me that, but I've got to go deeper, right? So that lets me know that I probably haven't connected the way that I think I have, right? So there's that connection piece, but also stories are super important because now you really help them connect the dots, right? So if you refer back to the sales training, which shameless plug again, it's really good. Go back and watch it, y'all. Um, I don't know what kind of families y'all come from. I come from the kind of family where we don't really talk about those kind of things, right? All kinds of crazy stuff going on in the family, and you just don't really talk about it. Very stoic, very I can take care of this myself type of situation. So when you have that client on the phone with you, this could be the very first time they've actually explored those feelings and connected the dots to where, man, I don't want to be like my great aunt that passed away and left my cousins, scrambling or they had to lose their house, right? This might be the first time they verbalize that to another human. And once we get them there, now we've got something to work with, right? Now we really got the cards on the table and now we can move forward, right? So stories are important. So in the office here, we read a lot. I encourage you guys to read a lot too. When you read things, you learn things. Shocker. So one of the books that we read, I think it was last year, was a book called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. We've actually read a couple of their books. It's really good. So Made to Stick is basically about how some ideas get ingrained in your mind. They're sticky, right? So think of, I don't know, a 90s sitcom that you remember that song, right? It's just like it's in there. Why some ideas are sticky and why some just they're gone, right? And in that study, there's a study there. It's done at Stanford University, so that's how you know it's legitimate. There was a professor that divided his students up into two different groups, right? So one group, they were to give a 1 minute talk, and their talk had to include a lot of statistics, a lot of data. The other group still relayed information and data, but there was a story that was incorporated inside that 1 minute talk. So in between these talks, the professor would play just a randomized video, just something just to take their minds off of whatever it was they just listened to their classmates talk about. And immediately after the video, the professor asked the students, okay, write down everything you remember about that talk that just happened before this video. So here's some data for y'all. Only 5% of the students that had the data and numbers talk, only 5% of the students could remember anything about the conversation or the talk that student had when it was numbers and data driven. 5%. On the other hand, the students that gave the talk that incorporated some stories, 63% of the students remembered those talks, right? So that's 2 out of 3, just about, versus 5 out of 100. Why is that important? It helps your client remember you, right? Like when they fill out that request form or that online request, whatever they fill out, that mailer, like you think you're the only person they've sent that to? Absolutely not, right? They're talking to people all the time. So we preach this a lot. We want to sound different. We want to dial different. We want to speak differently to our clients than the rest of the field. And I promise you, the rest of the field is not talking about how to incorporate stories, right, into their conversations. So it makes them remember you. Very important. Number two, it increases the value. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about connecting the dots, right? The people understand when they've had a death in the family, like there's some shock value there. So they understand that they want to get this stuff taken care of. But when you tell a story, it is engaging to the sense that it makes what you're talking about feel more valuable. right? Way more so than the numbers. So that 5%, that's for you quoters out there with your quote fingers, trying to fire off as many quotes as you possibly can. That's why they don't pick up your follow-up. They went out to Starbucks or had lunch and forgot they even talked to you this morning, right? So those stories are crazy important for just remembering. But more than, and this is interesting, also in the book, it talks about oxytocin, right? The studies show that this is crazy. Go back and look at the book. But they would take blood from people that have heard a story and they would find higher levels of oxytocin in their blood, not oxycodone, oxytocin. It's a hormone. Basically, it's connected to like love. It's called the love hormone. So when you tell stories, people like you more, right? Is that enough evidence? Y'all with me? There's a lot more. I got a lot more evidence. I'll stop there because I don't want to be the 5% people. I want to be the 63% people. Okay. Get your pens and pencils out. Let's take some notes. So I'm gonna try to move through this pretty quickly here for y'all. So the structure of stories. Number one, write this down. The first thing is context. I need context. The when, the where, the who, right? Now, when you're telling a story in real time, this is quick, right? This is not something like we're telling like a 2-minute story, if that, probably not even that, right? We're not giving this long. We've all been on the phone with these clients that go from story to story and drag it out. We're not doing all that, right? So this is quick. So when I tell the story about my grandfather, typically it's in response to them saying something like, I want to make sure my family's taken care of. And I'll say something similar to, you know what, client, like I respect that. That makes a ton of sense. You know, you remind me a lot of my grandfather. He's just a forward thinker, just ahead of his time. I mean, just I don't even understand where he got it from. I'm pretty sure he never finished high school. He and my grandma worked in the mills their whole lives, right? One worked first shift, one worked third shift, and they would just kind of do this kind of thing. But they put my dad and his three brothers through college because he believed in that, right? Just again, just ahead of the game, and he cared about the future of his family. And that's what you remind me of when you say things like that. You want to make sure your family is squared away. I know exactly what you mean. Boop, done. That is the context. The who, my grandfather, the where, years ago, before he passed, and the when, right? So those 3 points automatically make your story more believable. And it's just that fast, right? You don't have to do any more or any less than that. Like that's about what I would do. That took about 7 seconds, right, to talk about. So more detail about the main character. That's all it is, right? Who is the main character of the story? What's going on with them? So that's number one. That's context. Who are we talking about? Number two, challenge. Write that down. So a challenge that is ideally relatable, right? Something that makes sense in the context of this conversation that you're having with your client. So for me, the challenge is this is about 4 years ago now. My grandfather got diagnosed with cancer. And if you guys remember what I said earlier, we don't talk about stuff in my family. And so he had been in pain for a while, right? Had double hip replacements that we just thought his back was hurting him. Nope. Cancer. They did x-rays and did the scans, cancer all in his back, all in his bones, I mean, just eating him all the way through, right? So we find, and just after him being in pain. So I don't explain all that, but I'll say, about 4 years ago, he got diagnosed with cancer. And it was everywhere, all of his spine, all in his hips and his bones. Like it was in there, right? And that's a devastating blow for my family because I'm from a small town in rural North Carolina. Not a lot of people live there. So his impact is felt far beyond my family. He's the kind of guy that he sees you walking down the street, he shakes your hand, checks on you and your family, and he'll walk away and you'll look down, there'll be a $10 bill in your hand, right? And he doesn't look back. He's going. Right? So that's just who he is. That's who he was. And so everybody knows him, right, in the whole town. So right here, vulnerability is key. So when I'm telling that story, like I'm slowing down, I'm pausing for emphasis, right? I'm building up the character that who is my grandfather, right? When I am vulnerable in this moment, it builds trust. right? Because I don't have to put myself out here like that in that way. So what I'm doing is I'm demonstrating a level of care. I'm laying bare, like I put all my cards, push all my chips onto the table. Like this is who I am, right? This is what I've got going on. This is my real, authentic story. And when they feel that, because they will feel it if you do it properly, you can't just say the words, right? For me, it's easy because this is something that happened to me and my family. So it's very easy for me to put myself back there emotionally, and they feel that, right? I'm not trying to make the client cry, but I have had that happen on the phone before, right? Because sometimes I get choked up. I get misty thinking about it, right? But we have to make sure that it's relatable to them and their situation. So right now, I am building my grandfather up. I am trying to make them feel like who my grandfather is because they're trying to take care of their family. That's the only picture I'm painting right now. So that's number two. That was challenge. What was the challenge? Number three, response. So how does the main character in the story respond? So for me, the response happened many years before the result or the challenge happened. My grandfather bought life insurance years ago because, again, he's that person. That's just who he is. He's one of 10, right? The siblings. He's not the oldest, but everyone always looked to him for guidance. He always just had it together. His home was paid for, right? His cars were paid for. He's just the guy that had it together, the fruitage, if you will, right? He had it, right? So of course he had life insurance. Anybody who cares and loves and is responsible for their family has life insurance. That's what I'm saying to my client when I tell my story about my grandfather. So just be thinking about your stories, guys. And again, we need negative ones too, but most of the time they have to be positive because the client's the one with the negative story. Okay, so you want to choose one or two critical things that turn the situation around. Again, for this reference, my grandfather was ahead of his time. He had bought life insurance a million years ago. Didn't have to worry about it at all. Last but not least, the result. What happened? What was the result? Um, for me and my obviously my grandfather's a big, strong man. I mean, just big hands, working man's hands, you know. So the last time I saw him, he's in the hospital bed and he's just shell of himself, right? And that was tough for me. And my grandma is trying to prep me before we get off the elevator to go see him. Now, don't because my brother, I don't think he minds me putting this out there. My brother was a mess. My brother saw him and just broke down right there. And she's like, "Don't do that." Right. Right. I said, I'm good, Grandma. Like I'm okay. Like I know like I'm good. I go in there and who the person I see is not Thomas Harrison Smith Jr. Right. He's some shell of who that person was. You know, his hands were thin and frail, right? Like so, like he's just not the man. Like this is a man that basically raised me and my brother alongside my parents. So he's larger than life figure in my life. So when I'm talking about this to my client, I'm conveying these things. Sometimes I say it, but I'm conveying these things. So it's incredibly sad. He was married to my grandmother for 60 years, right? Um, and he passed. And it was devastating, not just to my family, but to the entire community. Again, small town. At our home church, back home in Forest City. I mean, it's a pretty big church. It probably seats 150 people, give or take. So decent size for back home. Standing room only in his funeral. Packed. Doors literally open. People trying to come in and pay respects, you know, to him, right? And thankfully, because he was such a forward thinker, such a visionary in his own right, we got to celebrate him properly, the way he would have wanted to be celebrated. But that's probably not quite true. He wasn't big on ceremony. He probably wanted us out there hanging out or doing something, but we got to celebrate him the way we wanted to, and we didn't have to worry about the financial crisis of how do we come up with $25,000 to like I can't even imagine what that would have done to my family, having lost such a huge figure in our lives and having to cremate him or having to scramble to figure out where the money was. I can't even imagine what that would have been like for my family, for my grandmother. right? We were all a wreck. We were all a terrible wreck. I'm still a wreck over it. I'll never forget it. My grandfather passed the day after my youngest son was born. So May 24th, my youngest son was born. My grandfather died the next day. I couldn't be there for it, right, for obvious reasons. And that's the story, right? So you might be thinking to yourself, like, Omar, do you really like take it there with your clients? Do you really get this deep and under like peel back those layers? Absolutely. You have to. You have to, right? Because how can I expect them to return that favor to me? Because I got to know what's going on with them. I got to know every single thing, their health, their financial situation, and their routing number, account numbers. I've got to get a lot of information from these people, right? So I got to put my cards on the table. And again, I don't tell them that to bum them out and make them sad, right? I tell them that because he was who he was, because you're who it reminds me of him. We were able to celebrate his life properly, still in pain, but properly. And that's who you are, client, that I'm talking to. You remind me so much of him because you're doing this for your family. Hard to get to let me think about it after that, right? But that's the point. That's the point, guys. So again, quickly, I know I'm up against the clock. So structure of your story, context, the who, what, when, where, how, the challenge, what happened to them, response, how did they respond to that, and finally the result. Right. Those are the ingredients for a compelling story that's going to move the needle, move your client emotionally so that we can build that urgency to get something done today. No follow-ups. All right, guys. Well, I hope that was helpful. That's something, again, I want to incorporate in our training, in the training course. I want to do a storytelling workshop in there. So hopefully we can get that put into the course here pretty soon. If you have people that you know are struggling with that, struggling with getting the story or telling a story or coming up with a story, reach out to us, jump on the Ask Omars on Discord, book a one-on-one with us. We can help you, right? Help your people get that stuff squared away because you're going to have that in every single product type that you go to, right? It might not be so deep, right? If you're doing estate planning, but the same elements are present in every sales conversation. Right. So anyway, guys, hope that was helpful. I'm gonna let you guys get back to it. Thank you for pulling up and hanging out with us. Come back next week. We're gonna announce some guest speakers for next week as well. You definitely want to tune into that. It's gonna help scale and grow your business. But I'll let you guys get back to it. Hit us up. Let us know what you guys need. We are here to help. See you soon.